This training session is about how a co-host should be operating within a Zoom presentation or an online presentation in order to ensure that we have a professional and smooth running presentation. So I've actually got Cindy here with me, Cindy Lancaster. So say hello, Cindy.
Hi guys, hi. Great training now coming up.
Fantastic. So what we're going to be doing on this is doing a bit of a role play session to give you an idea of what a presentation, an online presentation or training session should sound like in order to be professional and also at the same time remain personal. So this is where we're going to do a role play session after I've gone through a brief overview. The basic principle of what this short training session is about is to set the structure up of how all online presentations should be run, taking into account that you'll have a varied audience who we can't actually see. That's one of the biggest challenges. But we need to make sure that we're covering for the people who have seen the presentation or perhaps know who the speaker is. But more importantly, the people who are on the call for the very first time. And in the role play example that we're going to be doing, I'm going to set the scene for you just now, is about doing a business presentation. So there may be somebody who's on this call who's been invited who has R1 million in the bank ready to invest. They need to know that it's a professional organization that they're actually going to be dealing with. It could be the person who has just made R1,000 and they now want to know, well, what do I do with it next? So we've got a varied audience that the presenter can't actually see. So that's where it needs to be professional and at the same time approachable and personal. So the co-host carries multiple duties at the beginning, middle, and end. And the co-host effectively is going to release the presenter or the speaker to focus on the topic of the conversation. So everything that we're going to be taking you through is also available on a one-page Word document as well to help share it. So let's start. Okay. Now, it is the responsibility of the presenter or the trainer to organize their co-host and ensure their co-host is suitably trained. And one of the key things on this is that the co-host, being the first person who's going to speak, is going to be setting up the tempo of the rest of the presentation. And if they do a shocking introduction or they're not controlling it effectively, it could firstly put the presenter, the speaker, on a bit of a back foot. But the initial taste or feeling of the presentation is not going to be one which is what you want. So the co-host responsibilities is to introduce the speaker, control the meeting flow, and also then close the meeting. This introduction is around 1 to 1.5 minutes. You never want to go on longer because it's not about the co-host. The co-host is setting the tempo. So Cindy is going to be doing an introduction at the beginning, giving you an idea of what the co-host responsibilities are. Once the co-host has done this, they'll hand over to the speaker. The speaker is then going to go through the presentation. During the presentation is when the co-host will control the flow. So I'll talk about that actually as my part of the presentation shortly. Then after the end, when the speaker's finished, they'll hand back over to the co-host, who is then going to close the meeting and introduce the next speaker the next day of the presentation or the next call. So that would be then the close, and which is what Cindy's going to do then. So without much further ado, I'm going to now say that this is the starting point of the role play that Cindy and I are going. So it's going to be quite fun. Let's see how this pans out and if we can get this to work. What do you think, Cindy?
Okay, already.
All righty. Okay, so I'm going to now, we're going to, so the framework for this is, it's Wednesday morning, it's 11 o'clock. Tim Wagner's doing the Elements presentation, and I've got Cindy Lancaster. She's my co-host, and she's been suitably prepared and trained up to be the co-host for this. We've logged in. It is now 11 o'clock or just before 11 o'clock. I'm the speaker. I'm not saying anything. I'm just online, and the co-host is now running the show. So that's the setting sort of the framework for it. It's 1 minute to 11. Cindy, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this beautiful Wednesday morning. My name is Cindy Lancaster, and I'm going to be your co-host for today. Okay, so before we get going, I just want to clear up some house rules. Please, guys, I'm going to ask you to refrain from any questions and answers during the session. This is very important that you get back to the person that invited you onto the call, so keep a pen and paper handy so you can jot down your questions as we go along. I'm also going to ask you, please, to keep yourself muted during the presentation. It's just being courteous while the person is talking so that there's no distractions. All right. So it is my very big pleasure to introduce our speaker or our trainer today. His name is Tim Wagner. All right. Now, I met Tim in February 2020. Being introduced to a businessman of this caliber totally changed my mindset and how I now see my network marketing business. Tim is an extraordinary leader and leads our team by his fine example. All his skills stem from his 27 years in hospitality, climbing the corporate ladder, but always having his own business on the side. In 2018, Tim soon realized that traditional business would not get him the financial future he wanted for himself and his family. So he started learning about diversifying his income and about alternative ways to generate cash flow. In that year, with this knowledge, he was able to fire his boss. Tim now teaches and coaches to help others achieve success. So to just sum Tim up, he is a family man, married for 21 years, he loves animals, and is a passionate mentor to myself and his entire team. Most importantly, one of the best business coaches I've been associated with in my 31 years of network marketing. So here's over to you, Tim.
Well, thank you very much for the very kind words as the introduction. Good morning, everybody. As Cindy said, my name is Tim Wagner. It's a pleasure to be presenting this business opportunity with you today. Okay, so now I'm going off script. That would be, and thank you, Cindy, fantastic edification. And that's what it is called. It's called edification. I can't talk about myself, but another party, or in this case, Cindy, can talk about me. So then that's actually going to be another training session about edification. It's very important that every speaker or trainer, presenter has a bio which their co-host has been given. You don't let the co-host write the bio about the person. I've personally had a very interesting introduction a while ago. It was a live presentation I was doing, and the person who introduced me, I was standing there thinking, who are they talking about? They mispronounced my name. They mispronounced they said I was from a different industry. You see, it was my fault. I hadn't prepared the co-host, so they didn't know enough about me. So that's very key and important. And so the edification and the bio is a very key one that the speaker must prepare in advance to give to the co-host so that they can use their own words, but the structure must be the same. So that would be the introduction there. There's going to be another bio, which Cindy is going to read at the end as she introduces the next speaker and the next presentation. And the whole key purpose about that is if you've got somebody new on the call or the training session, and they thought, this is interesting information, I want to share this with my business associate, John. Now, if the guest on the call knows that the next speaker, in this case, it's going to be Martin Mester, and they've heard a bit about the background, they can then go to John and say, hey, John, listen, on such and such date at time, there's going to be this guy, Martin. Now, I've just heard a bit about him, very successful guy. You perhaps want to be on the call because I want to listen to what this guy has to say about this business, because he sounds like a very big professional. So you want to lead them up to the next one. So every co-host must be given two bios, the one to introduce the speaker and the one to close to introduce the following speaker. That keeps a wonderful flow and a rounding. Now, what happens during the presentation? The co-host is on duty. Now, the co-host knows the topic most of the time, but they are going to make sure that they're keeping that screen open where they can monitor the guests who are on the call for a couple of things. Number one, they're going to monitor to make sure that the people are muted. If you've ever done a presentation before, one of the most distracting things is when new people come on, or for whatever reason, somebody unmutes themselves, maybe unintentionally. Well, it's the co-host who must then quickly go and mute them. So personally, what I do as a co-host, I always keep that open on the screen so that I can very quickly go and just mute somebody who has just come in, has not been muted, or has unmuted themselves. The next thing, what's going to happen is the co-host is going to monitor the chat room. The last thing that you want, unless the presenter actually asks for it, is that the presenter is getting distracted by questions. If it's necessary, the speaker can decide to say, please put something in the questions, or perhaps they're doing a poll. The co-host is going to monitor and manage the poll for the speaker. Just allows the speaker to maintain the flow of the discussion point. So the co-host is still on duty during the presentation, and they're managing the flow of it. Once the presenter or the speaker is coming to the end, the co-host is then going to close off, which is exactly what we're going to do now. So back onto role play. Cindy, you ready? Are we still there? Hello, Cindy.
Sorry, I had myself muted there for a minute.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so now I'm going to come back. We're back onto role play. There we go. That's why this, see, the co-host is going to have themselves muted. They've got to be ready to jump on when the speaker says the following, and she's going to then take over. I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a privilege speaking to you about the Element business. My name's Tim Wagner. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'm going to be handing back over to my co-host, Cindy.
Wow, thanks, Tim. That was so awesome. Great learning in that. Little bit of, oh gosh. Okay, here we go. On how to be a co-host and don't do that. Okay, so I want to just say thank you very much to Tim Wagner for he done for us. Just quick reminder, please guys, you must get back to the person that invited you onto this call. You will have your questions written down. Go and ask them. So I'd also like to introduce you. If you loved what you saw today, please guys, don't settle for watching it once. If you need to know more, listen to one of our new leaders that are coming on. Not the new leader, the next leader I will be introducing you in a second. The link to the Zoom calls will be put out on the group, so you will have that. So in conclusion, I just want to say to you and introduce our next speaker, who is Martin Mester. Now, he's the co-founder of Honor Empire, and he has a huge passion for helping others achieve financial success. I also have had the privilege of knowing him for more than 40 years. So I speak with great respect when I say that his background was in building and property, and now he's an expert teacher and a coach in business and network marketing. This has allowed him to become financially free. Martin is married to Felicity, and together they have 5 children and 2 grandchildren. Martin is very successful in the business, and he will be presenting to us on Monday evening at 8 p.m. So don't miss that link, and make sure that you get onto the person that invited you, and have a fantastic day. Thank you very much.
And so we close. Thank you very much. And thank you for stumbling at the beginning. This training session we're doing is to teach people what to do. And sometimes when you go sort of, let's say, off script, you stumble. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yes, my whole mind went blank there for a minute.
Exactly. Now, especially when you've got a co-host who is new at presenting, make sure that you've trained them at the beginning to stick to the script. Now, Cindy is a presenter, she's a co-host, she's phenomenal. But everybody can stumble and lose their wording. Now, it's not a problem. It's personal. It's not a crisis if it happens. But it just goes to show that right at the beginning, when your co-host is starting to learn about how to do Zoom's online presentations, make sure they stick to the script. Even if it sounds a little bit robotic at the beginning, because you want to build their confidence. And on that point, the way that you would ideally structure is that somebody's going to be a co-host is a new up-and-coming leader who wants to be doing presentations in the future. And so the co-hosting is the stepping stone learning ground about how they're actually going to run or speak on to a laptop without having an audience in front of them. So that was a wonderful example. I really appreciate that, Cindy. So that was brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, so ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this training session. I hope you have an idea and you've given an example of what a bio would sound like. You've had 2 on this. The fact that it remains the responsibility of the presenter or the trainer to organizing and preparing their co-host so that they're going to be released to not worrying about people unmuting themselves, coming in late, on chat boxes, and then you can focus as the presenter on the topic at hand to make sure that it comes across as a professional approach. So thank you all very much. This is the first of a number of different trainings that are going to be coming out in order to help us maintain a professional approach in all of our presentations. So thank you very much, Cindy. I appreciate your time and your effort in joining me today.
No problem.
It's been great fun.
Great fun, yeah.
Thank you. Ciao.